This name will always ring a bell. It's always going to ring a bell. Not cyber bells, but it's going to ring a bell always. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome for the second time on the Power Impact Series show. Last year, joined the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. He was here and he took us to another level. It was phenomenal. And then after that show, it was crazy. It was something else. I mean, the calls that were coming, the messages that were coming, said, when are we having this person again? And today, your wishes have been accomplished. So I bring to you no other person than the man himself, Desmond Israel. I didn't do much.
Is that when we clap?
That's when we clap. That's when we clap.
Yeah.
I didn't do much. Oh, that's fun. That's fun, Israel. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing well. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. And how's the year been for you so far? October, 10th month of the year. Hi.
I was in school for the greater part of it.
Why?
Yeah, I graduated in May. I was just pursuing graduate studies in national security and cybersecurity. Jump on some fellowships, worked on policy papers for AI, cybersecurity, with some organizations in the United States. It was quite an exposure. So yeah, I can say I've been busy. I came home briefly. For the whole of September, I was in Ghana. And yeah, there were back-to-back conferences and speaking engagements as well. I was on ISACA talking about AI and of course how we can use data minimality principle to tame AI. Then I jump on some other platforms talking about cybersecurity and payment systems, digital finance, did some radio. I think I've been busy. Yeah, and of course I was with ISA as well, which is a company I founded. It's going well. We had some projects as well, which I'm still acting as a lead consultant. So yeah, I also had to pay attention to some activities within the company. But I'm back in the US to continue what I started.
Wow. That's a tall list. So sometimes I just want to ask, how do you juggle this all around? I mean, school, work, and all these seminars. And hey, viewers, you know what? He's always online giving some journals and stuff. And his articles are mind-blowing. You have a YouTube channel that you're doing stuff on it too. And hey, tell us about it. Because I want to see how you do all these things.
So that's that's Cyberlog, Tech Law Converge. Tech Law Converge is a pet project to just put my thought on paper. Actually, I'm guided by the fact that I didn't want to be just talking about things. I have a lot of opinions about national security issues, cybersecurity issues, tech issues, and I thought that the best way to put it together so posterity can judge me well was to document it. And which better way to document it than in the era of social media where videos and content is the best way to go. So I started blogging on LinkedIn and then also vlogging on YouTube. Most of them were my test drives. It generated a lot of buzz, and now I'm actually preparing content that would flow back to back, without stopping. So the first 3 months that the content were coming out, they were all about test drive. But I mean, nobody knew they were test drive because we actually wanted to see the true reaction from readers and listeners. And yeah, I've been amazed. I still have people checking on me and asking why content is not coming out, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, they were just test content. So there's a lot building up for that, and yeah, we'll get back to it. So Tech Law Converge is a pet project, but I'm sure it's going to come out to be more stable, more permanent. I mean, I wouldn't even mind getting to the point where researchers do their content and it's published for them. I don't want it to be about me.
Right. Yeah, because your test transmission alone was something else. It blew us off. I'm like, now I mean, it's we are just eager for more, and then we're not getting it. So yeah, that's the thing. So it's not only them. We are all eager. We are like, okay, we've gotten first part, second part, third part. What next? And
Yeah,
it's not
and
coming. Yeah.
your medium is the first place I have actually said that was a test transmission. Like publicly, I've said that that's a test transmission.
Right.
So
Right.
for all your
Right.
listeners, it was a test transmission, sort of. And it's not gone off. People who thought it was a 9-day wonder, no, it's not. It's not. We actually developing a lot of content to be published, and so that
Right.
at least we'd have like a year-round content non-stop. And when we begin publishing, it's just going to keep going. Yeah.
Sure. And then a little bit about ISA. I mean, what is ISA into? What's ISA?
Yes. ISA is a company founded in 2012 by myself, which focused on data privacy and cybersecurity. So it's a company that's about 11 years now. Been doing amazing. I would not lie about that. It's been doing amazing. It's not a noise maker because we don't really do guerrilla marketing. We focused. So if you look at the tagline, it says focused consultancy. So yes, like they say, those who know, so like we have a profile of people that we work with, and we just make sure that we're giving them value. So it cuts across a number of things, providing solutions through our partners. We are currently gold partners to Rapid7 Incorporated. Rapid7 is a company in the United States, in Boston, which is listed on the NASDAQ, and they provide more of visibility solutions, so things like managed detection and response, security incidents, and events management, that kind of thing, and we provide those solutions through them. And then we also have like in-house team and consultants where we do like just deliver local services from a local team, like pen testing, vulnerability assessment, resilience testing, cyber maturity assessments, some sort of training and consultancy. And the latter part of 2022, I started offering more like compliance as a service to some fintechs. So we started doing a bit of anti-money laundering. That's when I had begun my legal practice for some time. So we started doing anti-money laundering. We fused the cybersecurity skill and then the legal requirement of money laundering, anti-money laundering, and then we tried to provide and give services for some of the companies that that needed it. Did a bit of anti-fraud as well, and also suspicious transaction reporting. And along the line, we just enjoyed ourselves with all the other things that came with it.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. Right. That's good. So yeah, so viewers, you can hear it all, how he juggles it all around, and still is actually out there making it all around. Yes. So I think the last time we posted our flyers, was it, hey, Desmond, is he coming on your show? He said, yeah, I better log in when it is time. And this afternoon, that same person is like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here again today. And I can see you. Right. Thank you, Joe, for joining. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so today, let's move into today's topic, and then we'll hear from our viewers as well. Any comments they want to share along with us. Yes, the topic for today. The human element, training and education in cyber resilience. I mean, we want to find out, we want to break it into the cyber resilience. I mean, we know cyber security now. What is cyber resilience? People are going to find out what is cyber resilience and why is the training and education and the human element. Now, people sometimes get a bit confused. I mean, you're talking about cyber security and then you're talking about human element, and I mean, it's getting confusing for a lot of people because they think when you say cybersecurity, is everything tech. So when you start talking human interface element and blah blah blah, they get a bit confused. So we want to find out what is cyber resilience relating to human element training and education.
All right. So to start with, when you look at cybersecurity, traditionally it's a preventive strategy, right? So everything you discuss about cybersecurity is, I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. So all the traditional structures that we build for security within the cyber frame, it's all about preventive strategies, right? And
Right.
here, I'm not being very detailed because yes, some people will talk about, oh well, we have corrective controls, and I'm not discussing controls. I'm discussing the general bigger picture. When you look at cybersecurity, it's more preventive. So what is resilience? Resilience is your ability to respond and recover when an attack happens. So it means that along the lines of implementing our cybersecurity, industry recognized that we can't be 100% secure. We've known that all these while, but everybody came to the point of recognition where they said finally that, listen, guys, we will get hacked. It's just a matter of when. We don't know when, but we will get hacked. Now, when we get hacked, or when we get attacked, or when we get breached, how do we come out of it? How do we get going? So the attention now shifts from being everything preventive, even though we are still putting in those measures. We shifted from being preventive to being able to respond and recover when an attack happens. So today, an organization is more tested by its resilience.
Okay.
And I think I owe myself a credit to throw these out there. In 2018, we took on one of the banks. This was the first time that we were pushing one of our product services called cyber maturity assessment, right? And I'm not going to mention names. It's not necessary, but I just want to make my point. We took on one of the banks who had just finished their ISO 27000 certification and PCI DSS. Indeed, they were just about to launch one of their online banking platform softwares, and then their mobile app for customers to use. And here we are telling them that, listen, we have a solution. We want to do what we call a maturity assessment for you, essentially to test your resilience to some of these things. And we had resistance from people who said that, well, we just finished ISO, we are certified, blah blah blah. But let me give credit to this man who was then sitting on the board and was also the head of the bank at the time. And he said that, I'm going to take a chance on these people.
Right.
Show me what you've got. Listen, the banking application could not go live after our project was done. It took them an additional 3 months to remediate before they went live, including other things that we figured out. So you see, whenever you look at resilience, you're just trying to say that when things go bad, can we come back? Can we respond? Can we recover? So you put in measures to be able to do that. Now, at the top of being able to respond and recover is what we call the preparedness. So you may have heard of the word cyber preparedness, cyber preparedness. Yes, it goes with the resilience, because you should be prepared when there is a compromise, when there is an attack, when there is a breach, and then you should be prepared to be able to respond and do what? Recover. But of course, you can't prepare for something that you don't see. Visibility is everything, so that brings you back to the area of what are the components of my environment that makes up the cyber space, or this cyber, call it a cyber framework or cyber regime, whatever adjective you want to give it. Now, there are 3 things that makes it up: people, processes, and technology. People, processes, and technology. Now, each of these components has its own, it brings its own security, and it also brings its own risk, right? So people can be a security asset, and then they can also be a risk. Processes can be a security asset, and then it can also be a risk. Technology can be a security asset, and it could also be a risk. I'll give you an example. A firewall is a security asset, but a misconfigured firewall is a security risk.
let's take that one again.
So on the technology side, let me drink.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Power Impact Stream. You're just joining us. Hey, we are already zooming higher. We are already zooming higher with this one, Israel, and it's getting hot in here. Please Link, just share the link, let others join, because if you miss this one today, you're missing a lot, because what he's sharing here, it is real, it is happening. He said firewall is a security stuff,
It's a
but a
security asset,
misconfigured.
but a
Yes.
misconfigured firewall is a security risk because when it comes to getting breached, that firewall is actually going to give access to your environment when it's supposed to actually protect you. So
Right.
these are the things that you want to take care of. So that brings you to the human part, which fits into the people. People are human capital. They are a security asset, and they are also a security risk. Indeed, people actually form the most vulnerable part of the three components that I gave you. They always tell you that the weakest link in security is the people, the human being. So when you try to fuse resilience and the human element, you are just trying to say that how well can people respond and help recover when we are under attack? Because resilience is about recovery, response and recovery. Now, because I mentioned about the top level part of resilience, which is the preparedness, people must be prepared. How do you prepare people? You have to give them empowerment. Now, I'm refusing to use the term in your caption because I'm going to just discuss something about that. I have a slight personal opinion about the use of employee training, employee what's the other word, employee capacity building and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that we should have a paradigm shift where we speak about user empowerment or people empowerment, right? Because you're going to be faced with a number of ways in creating that empowerment. One is awareness, right? So
Right.
awareness is always focused on a particular subject.
Right.
So when you speak about cybersecurity awareness, you want to focus at that point in time, the awareness will be focused on a particular component. So maybe you are doing phishing, maybe you are doing fraud, maybe you are doing credit card security, maybe you are doing whaling for CEOs, you know, how they should be able to prepare themselves against targeted phishing and things like that. And then you have training.
Okay.
Right? Now, training would be to equip the individuals, you know, like kind of like give them some necessary skills and knowledge, and that would help them put themselves together to maybe be able to perform a certain task effectively, right?
Right.
And then there is education, which is long term, if you ask me, and much broader and followed a more structured way. And usually you're looking out for maybe certifications and educational accreditations or degrees or something like that. That's education. And these are all part of the ways that you can what empower the user. And then finally you have capacity building. Now, my view about capacity building is that when you said you're doing capacity building, it means that you are passing on usable, immediately usable skills.
Okay.
So if you take capacity building for maybe fraud or anti-fraud, it means at the end of that training or at the end of that capacity building program, right? Just so I don't juxtapose training and capacity building because I'm trying to distinct them. At the end of that capacity building program, you expect that these users, you know, in our case right now, these employees would be able to take on a certain task, right? So a lot of technical skills comes in there as well. A lot of additional soft skills are also taught. You know, practical things are done, drills are done, so people are able to appreciate how to get these things together. So if you throw it back to cyber resilience and preparedness, you are looking at empowering the user. In this case, you decided to go with employee. Sorry, the human. Sorry,
Human
apologies.
aspect.
You decided to go with the human. So you are empowering the human component of your cyber security, which is that you're trying to give them some sort of skills, some sort of knowledge, some sort of know-how to be able to prepare themselves towards any cyber attack. And then when an attack happens, they should be able to respond. And when they respond, they should be part of the process of what? Recovery. And one of the ways that, you know, everybody globally has been tested, cyber resilience was well tested, was in the year 2020. And you know the event I'm talking about, COVID. COVID was
A
the
huge name.
biggest, exactly. And if you watch the trend, I'm a trend listener. I listen to trends a lot,
Right.
especially when it's industry trends. And I think first time I had a session with you, I was telling you why I got into law in the first place. You
Right.
know, so I'm somebody who pays attention to trends. I mean, you're not going to get me on that. And if you pay attention to the trend post COVID, it's always about cyber resilience.
Right.
Post COVID, the conversation has always been about cyber resilience because a lot of the service providers, a lot of the companies, a lot of the institutions were tested. How well are you ready to keep your business continuity going when your the one component of your cybersecurity that cannot show up at the office, which is the human element, the people. The people no more could show up at the office. They can only be home and they have to work from home. So what do? And that's when people realize that we never paid attention to resilience in the first place.
Yes.
We are not
Right.
prepared for this. Even service
Right.
providers were tested. Internet service was woefully inadequate for some of the banks who were even ready to offer services online. All of us
Right.
would have to now start using online banking because even getting to the ATM was a scary movie, you know. So
Yes.
that's it with that human element and cyber resilience. It's about how the people component of your cyber security will be able to complement as a security asset when it comes to preparedness, response, and recovery in your cyber security.
Wow. I just don't know what to say now because because he has captured everything in here for us. So now we're going with the user empowerment or people empowerment. I think that's
I
it.
love that.
That's yes,
Yeah.
that's a huge one. That's a huge one because I mean we can have all the processes, we can have all the technology in space, but yes, post COVID is the human or the user empowerment. So now back to the user empowerment. What are some of
Right.
the things that we can do or to help with this empowerment? Because some people feel like we have all this in place. Exactly like the example you were giving earlier on with the
Mhm.
bank, they have everything in place, but the user empowerment is missing. So, should there be any of these attacks coming in? How do they even respond to it? How are they even ready to go about it? So, how do you do this user empowerment? I mean, you've given some breakdowns, awareness, training, education, and capacity building. I think, hey, this is a tallest. We're going to break it down. We're going to break it down. How do you do this user empowerment or people empowerment?
Right. So to start with, it's always a question of policy, right? Why is it a question of policy? Any cyber program that would be successful needs a management buy-in. Any cyber program that will be successful needs a management buy-in. Some can be resource intensive, especially depending on the industry in which you are and the kind of business that you're doing and the sort of resources that you have in house. So that's like crucial. And you are doing this, most likely to protect the reputation of your business. You're doing this to be able to be compliant, regulatory from a regulatory standpoint. You are doing this for maybe business continuity and availability. You are doing this to protect the data of your customers, the sensitive data of data subjects, and also potentially to reduce financial impact when an incident happens. So if you don't have a policy that directs this, then there's going to be a problem because these things that we are talking about are high level and it requires management to buy into it and make the resources available. Now, once you have a policy in place and it captures user empowerment or it captures people empowerment, it means that you need to adopt a more refined strategy on how you are going to do these people empowerment. Permit me, I did some lineup. Let me just see if I can get my smaller. Okay, so I did a lineup of things and I thought that I could share that from here. Some things that I've been looking at recently. So, first of
Right.
all, when it comes to empowerment, one thing that is missing in most of the empowerment strategies that we have, and empowerment strategies for maybe somebody who just joined, empowerment strategies, I have discussed them to include awareness, training, education, and capacity building. Okay, so anytime I say empowerment, I'm just referring to these things. Now, one of the things that I've realized that are not really paid attention to is what we call the scenario-based empowerment, right? So if you're going to do cyber awareness, it has to be scenario-based. If you're going to do training, it has to be scenario-based. If you're going to do some sort of education long-term, you need to take up education that has a lot of scenarios in it to help. Now, the reason why we need these things is that cyber resilience is practical, right?
Right.
There was
Right.
a time I had a conversation with a colleague, and I was saying that the only thing you cannot play politics with, right, is technology. It would expose you, like it will give you out. You
Right.
can't for, and when I say politics here, I'm not using politics in the ordinary sense. I'm talking about
Sure.
politics where we try to manipulate an understanding of a concept or an impact, right? In your
Right.
company, if you proceed to say that, oh, we have the best tools in there, an attacker would definitely show you that you've not done the right thing. And so technology is something you don't want to play politics with, right? So scenario-based
Right.
training is one of the things that I've always advocated for. So someone would ask, what does it involve? What does it entail?
Right.
You need to look at your industry and determine if you have like what we call a knowledge base, right? A knowledge base picks up all the potential scenarios of incidents that has happened in your environment or in your
Right.
industry, and then you
Right.
kind of like wrap your head around it. So for instance, what sort of attacks has happened? If it's a bank, for instance, what sort of attacks has happened that has caused ATM compromise, for instance? Has there been a situation where a CEO's email account has been compromised and is being used to push instructions to people to get them to part with resources? These are the things that you need to pay attention with. So now I'm speaking to everybody in the organization. I'm speaking to HR. I'm speaking to marketing. I'm speaking to operations. I'm speaking to technology. I'm speaking to top management. You need to have a knowledge base where you collate these scenarios. It's just like the way you collate a risk register, right? Which is something I should have touched on in the first place. So for the purposes of someone who might not really understand the full value chain, you do risk analysis just so you understand the kind of risk that are within your environment, and then you prioritize them. Okay, now we do this so we'll be able to allocate resources and determine how we are going to deal with each risk. A high risk scenario would have to be dealt with appropriate resources because it would definitely impact the business operations. And it goes back to the question of resilience. How do we respond and how do we recover? Okay, so now once you get that off the way, let's come back to the contemporary issues I'm talking about with user empowerment. So under the scenario base, you need to have all these sort of scenarios that are happening within your industry and happening within your direct environment. And like I said, you can build a scenario register just like you do with a risk register, where incidents that has happened both in industry, it could be local industry, it could be global industry, are collated, and then there's an appreciation of how it happened, because this thing will repeat themselves with some few modifications, because attackers will always change they would use the same handwriting, but they would change their language a bit, so if you understand how the attack happened, you could actually position yourself. Another area which has gained more traction is gamification. Now, gamification is where you try to build your learning modules or your empowerment in the form of games, right? So interactive games. Now, why do you do this? Studies has proven that when people interact with things that they have to obstacles and how they go, how they are able to go about dealing with these obstacles, they get a much faster grasp of the issue, and they are able to apply it practically when it comes to the situations. Now, if you juxtapose gamification to what they call issue spotting simulation, so like the way you have flight simulators, and even in the West, where you can actually do your driving test in a simulator room, so you don't actually go and sit in a car to crash the car. Exactly. You can actually create simulations, and it doesn't need to be electronic simulations. If the environment can afford electronic simulations, then that's fine. Now, why are you doing these things? You see, whenever there is an attack, the response must be quick and swift, but not hasty. And that is why Yes, not hasty, not at all. It has to be swift and quick, but not hasty. Because when it's hasty, you would miss things that have happened. I'll give you an example. An attack happens, and then the tech team decides to shut down maybe the particular server, and you know, like, get everybody off the network. That's their first point of call. Well, that's fine. It could probably prevent the attack from happening. But look at it, if for instance it was a ransomware that was happening. You really think that shutting down the server would have stopped the encryption? No, it would not. But what you would have done is you would not have given yourself the opportunity to decrypt, because the process would not have been completed. So it was a hasty position and hasty remediation, a hasty response. It was not necessarily quick and swift, you know. So that's why you need to have your human element well trained, well prepared, well empowered. And the way you do that is to get them to also be able to interact with someone. So if you are doing issue spotting simulation, then when, say, there's a phishing attack, or maybe there's a flood, or maybe there's another COVID, everybody knows what's going to happen, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's look at the scenario that's happening with our dam spillage. I'm not home. I was just asking about some few hours ago on my Facebook wall if somebody can help me with a national disaster plan that we have. I was just looking on the US, something on the US side, and I was trying to find out if I could find a semblance of what we would have done if we were in this situation, if we have a disaster, a national disaster recovery plan.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet, and I don't have very detailed facts about the kind of impact. I only know from the news that it's a big deal and things are happening.
Right.
But I am bringing it in here because it's one of the things that you can look at when you are dealing with cyber resilience. What happens if we had an organization in the middle of this spillage?
Okay.
What happens to their cyber resources? I just saw on the news about some documents that have been, captured in the flood, and one is wondering if the users of this document will be able to have access to these documents. Would their life ever be the same again? And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about organizations who were supposed to have these documents, in storage. What happened to archiving? What happened to early warning signs? These documents could have been moved to higher grounds, right? So you need to see cyber resilience. You need to see cyber resilience as a practical thing. It is not conjecture. It's not conjecture. It's not a matter of, okay, it's an abstract. When I used to do phishing training for people, they would say, this one crowd, would it happen? When we change our strategy from actually doing the phishing right in front of them, I had CEOs and board chairs who were like, quickly train everybody.
It is real.
It is real. So that's the whole thing with issue spotting simulation. You need to get it practical. And then there's role-playing exercises. For recovery and response, role-playing exercises are important. Who responds to what? Who goes through what? It is connected to what we call the compliance incident drills.
Okay.
Right? So that if something happens, who do we report to? Someone clicks on an email, phishing hits. Systems are showing that it's coming from user this on this IP address in this department, but the user themselves have refused to report the incident, that they have taken these steps. This is where empowerment comes in. I'll give you two scenarios why a user will find it difficult reporting that he's made a mistake. One, to be reprimanded, right? And two, the lack of knowledge about the implications of their action. So that is where, if you change your strategy and how you are building the people empowerment, the human empowerment, you will get users who are more informed. They are prepared. They know that they've made a mistake, but an early interaction would rather save a disaster than keeping quiet and then the system, getting hit, and everybody now, and operations get halted and all that, And even when it comes to chain of custody, getting access to evidence and giving out, maybe there's prosecution after, right? Or you're calling your lawyers in to help you with your cyber response in terms of regulatory requirements, and how you are going to communicate to regulators and all that. You need the people, the human element, to be empowered to be able to help all these service components to be able to deliver.
Sure.
And then the last part, which is always missed, is the continuous reinforcement. So you do a survey today and ask other organizations when was the last time they did a cyber drill, and they can tell you that, oh, when we did ISO, 2 years ago, we did a drill. Okay, so what happened in your continuous improvement? Well, the continuous improvement dealt with certain areas, so we did not go through cyber drills. Okay, but is that enough? I don't think so. So we need to have a strategy of continuous reinforcement. You're talking about response and recovery. I intentionally brought the dam spillage in for people to realize that is one of the things we consider when we are talking about cyber incidents. That can interrupt business operations. That can bring an operation to a halt. Is the warm site ready to kick in when there's a spillage that hits you like this? Have they even done any assessment? And I'm talking about organizations who are in the line of some of these hazards. Have they done the needed assessment? Uphill in the Makati areas, we are prone to what? Earthquakes and tremors. Yes. For the greater part of it, we've taken it lightly, because it doesn't really amount to anything. But they will tell you that for every inch of an earthquake in Japan, they've been able to build resilience as to what they should do. Companies are building their structures on foundations that has what they call construction springs in them, so that the buildings are not static, such that when the earth shakes it, then the building collapses. If it shakes with it. Okay. I brought these ones are just some of the things that we can just think about. That resilience is about knowing the environment, because when you say preparedness, what do you have? What do you have? You're already acknowledging that you could be attacked. So that's out of the way. We are not here to bastardize your environment. We all globally have acknowledged that even the best space of security can be compromised. So the next thing is, when you get compromised, how prepared are you? How can you respond? And how can you recover from them? And the human element, being the weakest link, means that is your highest risk component. And that's, you have to bring it to the fore and empower them to be able to help when it comes to dealing with the resilience.
Wow. You have to empower the human force when it comes to dealing with the resilience. And just with a dam spillage example, it's a typical example of how resilient companies need to be. Example, you see, the user empowerment thing you're talking about is not only with technology. I remember once we had to do a project on a tower, and then whilst we're in there, we felt that the earth has shaken. So the one thing that happened was the alarm blew and everyone needs to come out of the building. And guess what? All the people had to come out of the building. They were standing just beneath the tower.
Really?
And I'm like, so when I got there and I saw the people there and they were conversing. Hey, did you hear it?
They moved from one disaster to another.
So I was like, what is happening here? I thought we had to evacuate to the emergency point and start some drills and stuff. And you see, it's not there. So it actually has transcended straight to our cyberspace or our technological space. So obviously, let's imagine there was a huge company that was providing services to a larger number of people, and at this village place, I'm sure by now, we are all down. Cyber, everything is down by now. And then, so I think that user empowerment thing you just hit it there. It's just a perfect scenario-based training.
I like that.
It's a perfect scenario-based training that you just gave there. Let me just take some shout-outs here. I have your Mackenzie said, I'm watching you all the way from Mamprobi. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Isaac Socrates Mensa, great session. So much knowledge. Thank you so much, Isaac. Gospel Kwakukubi. Wow. He can't say further. He just said, wow. Gospel said, there's no dull moment with God. You can't have a dull moment with him. The scenarios alone will just whip you up. We'll let people go back to check their recovery plans tomorrow. We're going to check our recovery plans. Clifford said, very insightful. Thank you so much, Clifford. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Once I had a client just said he was going to his workplace, go to the workplace, and then they are just contracted us, and then a team of us were there. And then when the team got to the office premises that morning,
Right.
we just said, today we're going to test their disaster recovery plan. So this is what we're going to do. Anyone that comes in the morning was asked to stay outside and then just want to see what they're going to do in case they go to the office and then we say the place is on fire, or I mean there's been a flood, and what are we doing?
Yeah.
And you could see some of the people, I mean top level people were angry that we were wasting man hours, business time, and then what are we doing? We are just standing out there. And we said, no, we are here to do assessment. They want to check. You said you have a disaster recovery plan. We want to check how we're going to really, execute it. So I really appreciate the point you just made about that user empowerment, because most of these documents are just lying down there. We've never done any drills. We've never done anything relating to that. So when the disaster happens, then we are there. We have warm site, we have hot sites. We are having them all in the documents.
All in the documents. They are well written.
They are well written.
I call them compliance papers.
Okay. Compliance papers. That's all.
Yeah, they check the compliance box. It makes it easier for you to get through the door. Right. Yeah. So you want the certification, you want the regulators notice, you want the regulators thumbs up. It's compliance. Compliance and resilience are two different things. I the first time I had to lecture a class in GIMPA on cyber forensics and cyber risk and forensics. I made this argument, and I remember some of my students who were more into ISO compliance and the rest, taking me on and saying, well, but before you get, you put yourself together, before you can be given the certifications, we must show that. And I asked a very simple question. Is it not enough for me to show you the documents? What else do you ask for? You don't ask anything extra. You want to see the processes in place. So all I need to demonstrate is the processes are in place, right?
Yeah. Yes.
When we are having a resilience conversation, it's not about compliance
at all.
It's about the reality of whether the business will continue being there. So like I told you with the bank that we took on 2018, of course, we're consultants. I mean, when the CEO decided to give us a chance, we became consultants and we had to do our work. And clearly we showed that applications that were going to be public facing, people are going to put money through those applications. We're not ready to go. That's resilience.
Still.
Yeah. And when the programmers had given notice that they would be able to, put themselves together and remediate within a short time, it was not true. It took them 3 months to remediate. Wow. So the go live had to shift from an earlier date, which management has thumbs up, made available resources for, to another date. Because we are saying that we became showstoppers. We're like, okay, if you go live, this is the risk, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Compliance is not resilience. I would defend it anywhere. I would have a beautiful debate over that any day. All those documents you see are compliance papers. Trust me.
Right.
Resilience is a different conversation altogether.
Wow. If you're joining you on the Power Impact Show, where today we're having here Desmond is right, talking to us about user empowerment or people empowerment. I think we just have to stick to that one. We can't go any further in relation to cyber resilience and why we need to move from having those compliance documents and get into the real stuff. Let's run the drills. Let's have the drills. So should it happen, what do we do next? What are we doing next? What do we do next? Okay, Peter says that thanks for sharing knowledge on this topic. Cybersecurity, great presentation. Yes, you can't get it wrong anywhere when you have him here doing that. So some people have also asked, what if they have all these drills? They have all these drills in place. They have these resilience plans, and then some way, somehow, something just fishes through or something goes through. What next? What do you do after all these things have been put to place? And then some way, somehow, you get something fishing through.
So first, we'll admit that something slipping through is the reason why you have response and recover. So when something slips through, the next question is, how do we respond? How do we get back on track? Right? And now at this point, my compliance guys will tell you, where's your business continuity plan? Where's your disaster recovery plan? Perfect. Now, when you initiate that disaster recovery plan, if you had not done the people empowerment I'm talking about in terms of the drills, the simulations, and the rest, you would find out that the disaster recovery plan is not implementable as you thought. So we acknowledge the slipping through,
okay,
but we are more concerned about how do we recover? Will we be able to recover when it slips through, right? And I think I like that conversation so much because there's like I said, it's a global agreement that hackers will come. Is this just when a breach will happen? It is just when. But I'll give you something that is even more relieving when you have a good resilience plan. You see, one of the biggest impacts you have when you are breached, attacked, or if there is a cyber incident is, reputation and trust.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, when you move from there, you are dealing with regulatory issues. So people under GDPR will be worried about fines. Even under our Data Protection Act, if our regulator decides to bite, definitely it's going to be a challenge for people if you don't have the proper cyber resilience in place. So what your cyber resilience response and your recovery will do for you is to minimize the impact on your reputation, the impact on your customer trust, and also minimize the obligations, or like they would say, the liabilities that you have with the regulators, right? So you are acknowledging that, like the biblical text, I am weak, oh Lord, I come to you, right? So you acknowledge that you are weak. Then you prepare towards that weakness. That should that weakness materialize, that's why I started by discussing extensively the issue about doing the risk planning, right? Assessing the risk in the environment, and exactly, and then also building some sort of risk priorities and how risk response around those things. Now all those things are going to kick in. And this is not, when I first said compliance papers, it's not to shoot down compliance. That's not what I'm doing here. It's just that people don't like difficult conversations. I like difficult conversations. I'm not shooting down compliance, not at all, because like I said, when there is an incident, you need to kick in these process documents, and they are all matters of compliance, right? But we are demonstrating that under cyber resilience, it is not enough to just have plans. That is why the people empowerment became, I love the fact that you brought it up as part of your subject, because they are the weakest link to the issue. They are a security asset and a risk, depending on how you look at it. If you empower them well, they will become a security asset. The same way, if you empower them well, they become a resilient asset, because they will be part of the preparation, the response, and the recovery. So the question that came about, what happens if something slips through, which is acknowledged, something would definitely slip through. It is just a matter of when. It could be a cyber attack. It could be an act of God. It could be a man-made incident. It could be fire. It could be anything. But when that happens, how do you get into that recovery mode? And again, you can also decide to look at these old cyber resilience issues from 3 angles: corporate, government, and individuals. The way you want to address an individual's cyber resilience is not the same way you want to address a corporate cyber. I think for the greater part, I've been discussing it from a corporate cyber resilience point of view. Yes. And if you look at it from a government point of view, you're definitely going to want to discuss the issue about critical national infrastructure, for instance, right? So God forbid, but if if grid code gets hit now, what happens? What happens? I just gave the damn excuse, right? What happens, for instance, with the central bank? What happens to any mainstream bank? Cyber resilience, from the government point of view, or from the national cyber national infrastructure point of view, is for you to be able to position that preparedness that we are trying to talk about. So you just look at the scale where we are discussing it from. And an individual point of view could be a very simple analogy, right?
Right. Very simple.
Let me use myself as an example. So I've created like a cloud storage for most of my documents, like the very critical documents, right? Because
Right.
look, I've been breached twice. Because I sometimes I can tell you know, when you go into the spotlight, people always want to find out, okay, how good is this guy?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've
Let's
been
test
breached
him. Let's
twice.
test him.
Exactly. My LinkedIn was breached, right? And within 24 hours, I had to change all my credentials on all my social media. And he also changed my thought process about how many social media accounts I really want to have.
Okay.
You know, and how many of them I even want to use this sort of API authentication, you know, for. Because if it gets breached, what happens on the other side?
On the side, yeah.
That is how the individual will look at the resilience. How prepared am I for my face? If my Facebook gets compromised today, what next? Does that bring my life to an end? Can I get it back? You know, and my LinkedIn, like I said, has been breached twice. The second one, I had to use LinkedIn themselves to do the investigation. So those who followed the blog that I had on LinkedIn, you noticed for a long while I was not online at all. And then when I came online, I made a notice about, you know, getting breached and all that.
Yeah,
it happens. It happens. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. And like I said, just acknowledge the weakness and be prepared to do the response and the recovery. I had to give LinkedIn some information they required. You know, I had to go on my WhatsApp because I'd created a WhatsApp group where I'm able to communicate with people who are reading my blogs and stuff like that. I had to inform them about, like, you know, taking a break and, you know, getting my account worked on and things like that. And then as soon as he came back, I quickly had to change my credentials. I found a very nice way of, you know, managing my social media platforms. So if I'm changing account on Facebook, you most likely I'm changing the password for all other social medias that are associated, you know, with it. And like I said, I've created a backup of data, just in case anything happens, I can get access and just keep working. I've also become more cloud inclined nowadays. Most of the time I'm working on a document directly in my Google Docs, you know. And everything about me now is a two-factor authentication. I've added double phone numbers to some of the authentication platforms that allows me to use double phone numbers. The reason is, if someone compromises one, can I get back? You know. Exactly. And on my phone, for instance, I'm using the biometric and I'm using the PIN. And after you log into the phone, if you want to, I've actually created, I've like sectioned all my applications into various groups, right? So I have applications that are dealing with payments, applications that are dealing with productivity, entertainment, and the rest. If you go to a place like payments, I have used folder apps to lock the applications. So you need to unlock the application before authenticating into the application. It is because the threat is real. The threat is real, and you need to be prepared for these things. How is your resilience? You know, if someone steals the phone, am I going to hold my head in despair? No, I'm just going to log on to my Kaspersky platform and wipe the device because I've paid for that service. It is that crucial to me to wipe the device than allow an attacker to be able to get access to it. It's everything in my life that is on a single phone. You know, from my hospital check-ins to my school accounts, my business accounts, my bank accounts, my mobile money platforms, my social media, my private pictures, everything is in there. My kids, you know, passport images of my kids, everything is in there. So you need to know what you have. If the value on what you have is high risk, then your approach to resilience would also have to be very strong. And that is coming from the individual point of view. So you can look at it from the individual, the corporate, and then the government.
Wow. Looking at it from the individual, corporate, and then the government's point of view, you need now to know that, hey, it is real. And then we just not take it lightly as it is. I mean, the top-notch guys, so the people in there are getting hit. How much more you? you need to see to it that it is real. All right, so just a few messages here. Prince Chopon said, I'm enjoying the conversation. Desmond Israel, great contribution. Thank you so much, Prince. Kwabena says, we are sometimes fatigued on cyber tech solutions and forget about the human who will configure and manage these solutions. Exactly. That's what
I
said
agree
it
with
here.
him.
Because we are so much inside there, we are thinking about the cloud protection and doing all this, and the people that are configuring are misconfiguring it.
Yeah, I agree with him.
So yeah, thank you. Right, so right now we are wrapping up, and the conversation is getting more interesting and getting more educative. So we are being compromised to let down our second layer of security of closing the program. But hey, that's it. Peter comes in again. He said, I like the comments on the value you have. On the value you have is high risk. Point well made. Congratulations. Isaac Socrates Mensah said, thanks so much, Ambassador, for this session. We should have Desmond for the rest of the year, please. He has a tall list. I told you earlier, he has a tall list. So getting him.
Hey,
we
thanks for
will
the
see.
compliment, Isaac.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll try and see so that we can use this one, as a gamification.
Yeah.
I'll use this as gamification. Yeah, you know.
I know.
All right. So before we run out, yes. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Desmond. Before Desmond runs out,
Thank you for having me.
We want to appreciate all our viewers for tuning in and joining us for this episode. It's something we can't even stop, but definitely we're going to do a part two. We're going to do a part two of it because there's a lot more to hear from Desmond, and then to point us to from individual, corporate, and government point of view. He's actually laid it all down for us. So before we go, your final words and then your final contributions for us, Desmond, before we call it a day for today's event.
Right. So the human element is same as the people, the people element that we are talking about. But I just want to reiterate the first point I made, that for anybody who's going to watch this video, whether now or in the future, it's my view that will shift from what we call employees awareness creation, or whatever you want to term it, to what you should be doing about people empowerment or user empowerment. And that should cover from awareness, training, education to capacity building. I've already spent a lot of time explaining why these things are not the same, and so sometimes you are juxtaposing awareness creation with capacity building, or education with training. It's not the same. They have different values, they have different impact and different requirements. So people empowerment should be the thing, and cyber resilience is not just a buzzword. It is real. If you want to have a conversation about cyber resilience, you should be talking about the practicality of being able to prepare, respond, and recover from a cyber attack or incident.
That's to another level. Thank you so much, Desmond. It's a wonderful thing. So for those who want to follow you up on your social media handles, what are the social media handles they can?
So Desmond Israel on LinkedIn. It's a place I play around a lot. I'm on Twitter, but not too much. But I do tweet sometimes. So Desmond_Israel on Twitter, and then you can search for Niemanche Israel on Facebook, and you can also have me. I use the same Niemanche Israel on my Instagram, but I play around LinkedIn and Facebook a lot, just in case. Yeah.
Right, so that's it for you. So those of you who want to just hit him up again or follow him up, that's the pages he has given you, and you can get him there almost every time, because he never stopped doing the empowerment. He never stopped doing it. It's always dropping. I always call him I just symbolizes him to be like the train, the moving train, the fast train, and when he stops and the doors are open, the ideas that flows out it's just resemblance of the people that are getting off the train, because it's packed and it keeps flowing in. And hey, there's no dull moment, just as Gosway said, there's no dull moment with Desmond at any time. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, you know how we do it. On every episode, we come up with a hashtag for the week, so that all that has been shared will be kept with that. So today, the hashtag for today is this. The hashtag for today. Get ready for the hashtag for today. It's no other hashtag than this. Is the hashtag for today.
Oh, nice. I love it. User empowerment.
Yes, this is a hashtag for today. User empowerment. Yes. So thank you all. Thank you, Desmond. It's always a pleasure having you on the show and then sharing with us this glut of knowledge. Always, it's something else. And we can't do without most of these information you've shared with us. We are happy to have you. And we are glad for you.
Always a pleasure.
Gracing our state. And thank you so much, my viewers. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing the link. And thank you for also joining. If you just joined, don't worry. You can always go back and then replay the whole program because there's lots of knowledge. There's wisdom nuggets that, yay, man, you can't get it anywhere than only on the Power Impact Series show and with Desmond. So thank you so much for joining us. Meet you same time next week on the same platform for another wonderful episode. Yeah, till we meet again, same time next week. Goodbye. And as I always say, dreams are in levels. Make sure you get to the top level of your dream. Bye-bye. My name is Ambassador Benjamin Oswansa.